Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Goaltending, where your why is bigger than your excuses. We have a very special guest joining us for part two. And before I get into introducing her again, I just want to say thank you all for tuning in, allowing us to be a part of your journey. Make sure you find the takeaway to apply in your own journey. That's what it's all about. If you just listen to it, walk away, and do nothing, then you just wasted your time. If you walk away and you take something and start applying it to your life, take action on it, that's where you can make a difference. Okay, so find something to learn from today's episode. Make sure you go like, subscribe, comment with your thoughts and questions to join the conversation. And so I would like to welcome back Sara Kauffman. I was able to connect with her at a Strong Bonds event last year, and what that is really a resiliency event for couples. Like, it helps teach skills to build stronger relationships, learning how to communicate better and be more resilient in your life. And through connecting with her at that, was just inspired by her story. And then on top of that, she is a business consultant. She's working on publishing a children's book. So Sara Kauffman, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And so let's dive right in. First off, I want to make sure everybody go back and listen to part one. A ton of great information when it comes to taking care of your health and balancing and prioritizing things when it comes to your health and family life. For this episode, though, let's focus on first let's talk a little bit about your business consulting journey. How long have you been doing that? And what's your focus when it comes into what you consult for businesses?
Okay, yeah. Um, so as part of my health journey that we talked about on the last episode, um, I came to the conclusion that I needed to take a step away from my sort of executive level role. I was president of a financial services firm. I had moved to Austin, Texas for that role in 2022, with the intention that I'd be there for 10 to 15 years. I mean, that's what I told them when they were recruiting me, and that was my plan moving there. And then just the health challenges, it just felt like I needed to prioritize my health, and I needed to move back to Kentucky to be close to family. That wasn't an easy decision. I loved the company I worked for, the family I worked for. I sort of am in like a multi-generational like wealth management type field, as I
Mm,
worked for this amazing family, Texas-based family, and just absolutely loved them. And it was so hard telling them that I was stepping away from that role last August. And I sort
yeah.
of gave them a 6-month notice so that I could transition out of all of my duties and transition everything to the new leader of the office. They like promoted my CFO to become the new president of the firm. And then at the end of March, we moved back to Kentucky. And um, stepping away, I was really, really not in a great space, like from a physical health or mental health. Like it had just worn me down being,
Mhm.
it felt like sick for over 2 years at that point of just trying to get answers for my health. And I didn't know what I was going to do, to be honest. And I started just networking and really talking to a lot of people that I knew like had my back and were, sort of like my brain trust type people, if you're familiar with that concept. And through that, a lot of people were saying, you know what, you should consider consulting. You would be great as, X, Y, and Z. And so then it was, okay, yes, I want to be a consultant. I've been in this field for over a decade. What niche of this field do I really want to, what am I most passionate about, and what do I find most purposeful, and focus on that area.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine runs his own advisory practice based out of Chicago. He's like a work colleague friend. And we were talking in December, right before the holidays, and he was just listening to me talk about all the different things I could do for like the single family office industry. That's sort of the industry, like what it's called
Mhm.
broadly. And he said, you should bill yourself out as a fractional chief learning officer. So
Hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with like the fractional executive concept, but it's basically, okay, a company needs a CFO, but they're a smaller company and they don't need a full-time CFO. So
Okay.
want to have a CFO that, works for 6 or 7 different companies and bills their time to each one separately.
Mm.
So in the single family office world, these are multi-generational families, and family engagement and family learning is a really important concept. And it's something that I had focused on extensively with the role in Texas for about 2.5 years. And so that's where I landed, was sort of this chief fractional chief learning officer model, but also family engagement. And then I'm also really passionate about female empowerment. So I probably don't have to tell you that most American family enterprises, family businesses are run by men. It's very heavily, male dominated sort of world. And so helping these females really understand their role in the boardroom, their role within the family ecosystem. um, they call it the great wealth transfer. You can Google that and look at articles, but essentially, however many trillions of dollars are transferring from sort of the creators of wealth to their children.
Mhm.
And of that, I think they're saying that 50 to 70%, I've heard different statistics, is actually going to go to women as the primary inheritors that are tasked with running these businesses and these family enterprises.
Okay.
So for me, coming alongside these women, coaching, just really helping empower them to understand their role within their family enterprise.
That is a powerful mission. To be able to impact lives that way. And you know, as I listen to it, I think through it makes me think of my daughter. My daughter is what popped in my mind of
Hmm.
like future for her. And
Right.
so while I'm not a woman, I can very much say how important that is to me to think about how much I care about my wife excelling at things she wants to do and my daughter growing into a world where she is able to take on anything that she feels like.
Hmm. Well, and so often, the creators of wealth have been incredibly successful at what they did because they worked 90-hour work weeks, right? And so then they weren't intentional about having those conversations with their children and making sure their children are ready to inherit um, the business and the money, if you will.
That's a really good point. And so your role as a consultant, you kind of help to bridge that gap. Am I understanding that right? We
Yes. So it's
consult on
it's
how we fill that gap.
yeah, customized learning programs, I guess is the way to say it,
Okay.
sort of wrapped in family values and legacy. So
Yeah.
going in, working with a client, saying, we've got a group of 20 something that are siblings or cousins, depending on what generation you're on, and they need a learning program for these 5 topics. So identifying what the need is or what the desired learning components are, and then sort of
Mhm.
building out that program to make it like an experiential, interactive, helping them, and then adding in the components of like family values and family legacy, so that um, you're also helping the older generation express and transfer their values and
Mhm.
what they want the future of the family enterprise to be to the younger generation.
That it sounds like you're combining your experience of
Mhm.
like executive type role and your strong bonds
Yes.
facilitator understanding of resiliency and communication of family stuff. Is that what I'm picking up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, to the like person looking in at my resume, it doesn't make any sense. But to the
Mhm.
people that are in my life on a day-to-day basis, the whole mother of 4 Gen Z children, certified in what 6 programs now for the BSRT Strong Bonds of thing, and then doing what I do for families. Yeah, it's all very intertwined. I mean, people will ask me, what's your background and qualification to sort of be in this sort of really niche sort of role.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, I have a business background. I was a paralegal early on in my career. I have an MBA. But really, the thing that's prepared me most for that career is being a pastor's wife for almost 20 years and parenting 4 children.
Yeah.
Because that's what these families need, is that person to sort of come alongside them and help them understand like the family dynamics. I mean, people call it the soft skills. They're not soft skills. They're actually some of the hardest things to
Yeah.
navigate when you're talking about going in and helping families.
Very true. I'm curious. Uh, earlier on in life, let's say, or like early 20s.
Mhm.
Um, did you feel like you knew what you wanted to do at that point in life, or like, did you have an idea, or how did you feel when you were at that point?
No, I mean, I don't know that we've ever shared this at Strong Bonds. The one criticism that we sometimes get is like, your life seems perfect and not attainable. Like, we actually get that on some of the feedback, and
Hmm.
our life is so far from that. I mean,
Yeah.
we eloped at the end of our junior year of college and had our first child 9 months later. And neither one of us finished our bachelor's degree until 2012. And so I went back to school in 2011. I finished in 2012. Paul technically finished in 2013, the start of 2013. We both lacked about 30 credits to finish, but family had, we had our family sooner, and it was like, okay, well, we have our family. We've got to focus on that. That has to be the highest priority. And then we both went back and finished, because as the kids got older, I wanted that for myself because it was important for them. And I wanted them to see that mom finished, her bachelor's degree. So, no, not at all. I would say that, in the back of my mind, if I had had my way and everything had gone perfectly when I was in college, I would have finished my 4-year degree and immediately gone to law school.
Hmm.
Now, law school, that ship has sailed, and that's okay. So next best thing was to be a paralegal. And so, I was a legal assistant, then I worked my way up to a paralegal. Then I went back and finished my degree. So, I mean, I feel like I sort of did life backwards,
Yeah.
for lack of a better way of saying it. I still, with my current role, it's a really niche industry, and I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
Like, so if somebody had said single family office, I'm like, what? Family office? What are you talking about? But in 2012, I finished my degree. I posted my degree on Monster or Career Builder. I can't remember because I was so proud of myself for finishing. I was running my own business at the time.
Yeah.
And I got called by a recruiter out of the blue, and she said, we have this really unique role, but they're looking for someone that's run their own business and someone that has a legal background. We think you might fit the bill. And then we added to that in the interview process, and I have 4 children. And it was like, okay, this really makes sense because they had 5 children, the first family I worked
Oh,
for
okay.
8 years. Um, and so I just, sheer good fortune in a way, landed
Right.
in this role in 2012, of a startup family office, and just help sort of build an office from the ground up. And, because like my kids, I was talking to my son and daughter-in-law on Friday, and they were saying something about, mom, we look at you and sort of where you've ended up in life, and it's hard for us to feel like we are ever going to attain that. And it's kind of daunting to some of us kids.
Yeah.
My son's an aerospace engineer, and like,
Oh,
so it
wow.
was like, okay, I was shocked, first of all, that he was saying that, because like,
Yeah.
what was I doing when I was 26? That's how old he
Hmm.
is. I mean, it's sort of, it's surreal that sort of this is the path my life has gone on. But, and that's what I told him. I'm like, you know, this is a lot of just providence, if you will, of for whatever reason, this is sort of the role I've been, put in. And I really love it. I love working with families. Because there's a ton of people coming out of like business school, finance degrees, and that sort of thing, that all they're doing is search terms for single family office anywhere in the country. They will move to have a job in a single family office. And I landed one not even knowing what I was walking into or knowing what it was.
Wow.
And it's just sort of, it's just surreal sometimes when I
Yeah.
sit and think about it. Two
You know,
college dropouts that, this is where sort of Paul and I have ended up,
yeah.
versus, how it started.
That's an incredible journey. And I noticed something, and maybe there was nothing behind it. You you said good fortune instead of luck. And I'm
Mhm.
curious if you just said if you as that was a purposeful thing, because I thought you were about to say luck, and it was almost like you caught yourself and said good fortune
Mhm.
instead of luck. Was there a reason behind that?
For sure. I mean, I feel like, God has ordered so many steps of my life. My faith is
Yeah.
so important to me. And, in 2011, 2012, when I was finishing my degree, I was running a business at the time. And I was just praying one day, and I'm like, God, just show me what my path needs to be. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, but just give me it. Because Paul was a full-time pastor at the time, and pastors don't make a lot of money at all. And so we're trying to make it on my stay-at-home business venture that wasn't going well, and my husband's pastor salary. And it was like, I literally just earnestly prayed and asked God to give me an opportunity that would help me, provide the things that I wanted for my kids, like the extras,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
music lessons, and just the things that you want to give your kids that sometimes you can't. And so yeah, I did stop myself because it wasn't luck. I
right.
do feel really incredibly grateful that God sort of blessed me in this way to give me this sort of path and journey that I've had.
I really like that explanation of it, and a great choice of words. I noticed it and it just stood out. I had to ask. Um, Now on that, so the reason that I asked, in terms of where you were in the early 20s, or like, what was the thought process? I feel like it's very common to be in that place where it's like, I don't know what I want to do.
Mhm,
Um, like not figuring it out. I know for myself, it was a very long time before I felt like I
mhm.
really found my purpose. And when I
Right.
found it, I like fully knew. I was like, I found it.
Mhm,
um,
mhm,
but what I always tell people, anybody that I coach, or even if we just end up in a conversation, and I would love to get your thoughts on it, is if you don't know where you want to be, just find something that you're interested in and learn everything you can about it. Just focus on
mhm,
learning something.
mhm,
And if you're learning, if you're developing yourself in some way and gaining new knowledge, eventually the right things kind of come together. And that's what I hear in your journey, is like
mhm,
there's pieces of things that came together in the right way to bring you to where you are right now. For myself, I bounced job to job throughout my 20s, none of which
mhm.
I really found purpose in.
Yeah.
And it was a combination of things. I became a master resilience trainer for the military, fell in love with those skills, fell in love with teaching master resilience training and the impact that
Okay.
it had. And that kind of sparked the, like, I would love to coach, I would love to help people. And then recently, I've also done the holistic health and fitness integrator course that gets more
Okay.
into holistic health, a lot of exercise physiology as well. So I'm able to take my resiliency piece that I love, this holistic health piece that I love, and ended up having the opportunity to come into this role as managing the suicide prevention program and the alcohol and substance abuse programs for the Kentucky National Guard.
Yes.
And all of those things came around, but there's a really unique, interesting piece that would completely throw people off. And that's, I grew up rapping. So I rapped throughout my childhood. And uh, I took it seriously very early on. I think people sarcastically was like, "Oh, he's the rapper," kind of thing.
Mhm,
Um, and in 2015, I was part of the Army Soldier Show, doing that, and had the opportunity to kind of like live a dream and
mhm,
travel the world. And I performed for like soldiers and their families at different military bases. Uh, and after I did that, I was like, I lived the dream. I didn't really pursue it any further. I got married very shortly after I came back, and I just wanted to focus on having a family. I recognized that pursuing music personally would probably lead to needing to travel a whole lot and would have
mhm,
an impact on the family that I wanted to be able to build.
mhm.
And so, completely pushed music to the side, which was like just a passion and a love of mine throughout my early childhood. And now in my role, I've found a way to bring music back in a creative way. And I've actually written a suicide prevention song that we're working on making a music video for and incorporating into suicide prevention training for the Kentucky National Guard.
That's really cool. But isn't that the way life is? I mean, it's like your life is a culmination of your lived experiences, right?
Mhm.
And all of that makes you who you are. And I think the people that really just find their purpose and passion and can live it are the ones that sort of look across everything that their journey has taken them on and like, okay, this was the reason for this and this was the reason for that, and now I'm
Right.
able to pull from this strength and continue using it. And I think that's part of the way life's journey works.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I definitely think that God just has His hand in all of it.
Hmm. It really
Um,
does.
so I would say to anybody that's in that early in life position where they just are not knowing what route to take, focus on growth, focus on development.
Hmm.
The pieces will fall together.
Yep.
There's a purpose. So just focus on development and learn new things, explore your interests. I think is the best
Hmm.
place to kind of start and pursue. It'll all make sense later.
Yep. Yeah, lifelong learner. I mean, that's sort of what I am and how I've been. And now I get to be sort of a director of learning for these families. And again, it's just part of like, that's who I've always been. And so it's just natural next step.
Right, right. And so let's get into we've taken this journey and now you're working on writing a children's book or have it written or working on getting an illustrator. Can you talk about your children's book some? What inspired that? And why the topic that you chose for a children's book?
Sure. So what I do with the family learning and engagement consulting, um, they sort of break down, there's a whole lot of like planning and research and sort of providers in this space. And a lot of them break down the learning by life stage and what you should be learning at each life stage. And if you look at the life stage, within sort of my industry, ages sort of like, let's call it 6 to 12, is pretty light on content, materials, curriculum programs, things like that. Um, then Paul and I went to the BSRT training last spring in Tampa and did the emotional intelligence. And that was geared towards young adults to adults and not really children at all. And it just got me thinking. And then recently I guess I had a client ask me, what's the most important thing I need to be focusing on for my sort of 6 to 10-year-old age range in terms of their learning and their growth? And most of the resources, again, in my field are about financial, like, how to manage your piggy bank and how to give to others, philanthropy, all these concepts like that, which aren't bad. But that I've seen, no one's really talking about the emotional intelligence piece.
Yeah,
And I think that's so important. I mean, so much of who you are as a person and your personality and other things are just sort of like fully baked in by the time you get to age 12, 13, 14.
hmm,
And yet no one's really in an intentional way teaching emotional intelligence to children, again, that I've seen. I mean, I know they have the what is it, the Leader in Me program for the
hmm,
Covey 7 Habits. I mean, there are versions of it, but just the true awareness of self, awareness of others, influence of self, influence of others, they just, I don't feel like, are intentionally teaching that, and it's really, really needed. I mean, if you look at our culture and
oh yeah,
families and everything else, I mean, it's all about like self. I mean, there's just so many people in our world and children that just lack complete self-awareness, right?
yeah,
If I'm being honest, in my opinion, of course. Um, so yeah, I mean, that was sort of the impetus for it, and I felt like it was needed in sort of this niche role that I'm wanting to, function in as a consultant. And it's something that I wish I had had with my own kids. This was something I wish, I was an avid reader even as a child. So I wish I would have had that sort of intentional training, if you will. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of the background of it. And Jackson, he's like a spoiled mess. He moved to Texas with me. We
hmm,
actually rehomed the other two pets we had, but Jack had just been with us almost the longest, and so he came with me to Texas. And so just, I don't know, it just came to me and like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a children's book, and so Jackson's Big Move is the name of the first book. I'm hoping it goes well and I'm able to write, another several on the different topics, but it's about a long journey in a moving truck with a scared cat who doesn't understand what's going on and has no awareness of himself, no awareness of others, not aware of the stress that's, it is on his parents, and
hmm,
just all the different things. And so it's meant to be like a fun, funny, illustrated picture book. But then there's also questions. I've intentionally made it because like adult self-help books where you read a little bit, then you have your journal and reflection
yeah,
questions.
yeah.
I'm a big self-help junkie, right, with the
Oh
books and
yeah, me too.
everything. So it's almost like a precursor to that in children's books, which you don't see a lot either. You just have like
Mhm.
the story and that's it. But this is more of like a hybrid between like a self-help book and a children's book, I would almost say.
Yeah.
So I think it's a fairly unique concept maybe, and then it's written in third person, so from Jackson's voice and tone and all of that. And then there's a secondary character, Josie, I think is what we're landing on. My kids have been great. I send it to my kids, I have them read
Oh
it, and they
yeah.
all give me great feedback of like,
Mhm.
okay, this is working, that's not working, you need a second character. That was my oldest daughter's, so the like third draft was adding another character for him to have
Yeah.
a friend on the journey.
Well, I love the concept and that you like incorporated the family into the editing process, like
Oh
get
yeah.
that feedback and make those adjustments with that's really cool.
Yeah.
I agree 100% that's needed. We talk, my wife and I talk all the time about like our kids just have big emotions.
Hmm.
And it's not just our kids, like kids have big emotions. And the thing is it's really easy to forget. And I try to remind myself that I still have to work through emotions and I still struggle with my emotions sometimes. They're experiencing a lot of these emotions for the first time and still trying to figure them out. And and really like a lot of that just falls to the parent. Like there's not really that formal education or something to help guide through it. And so if the parent is not emotionally developed, then
Right.
they don't have anything to pass on to the kid. And so it falls to
Well,
the
in
parent
our
and they got a shortfall.
yeah, in our generation, it just wasn't taught. It was children
Mm,
are to be seen and not heard. Do it because I said so. That's why.
mhm.
Um, suck it up, Buttercup. I mean, if you think of like all the like things we heard as kids of just
Yeah.
like that don't resonate at all in a true emotional intelligence world of you know, your kids are in the safest place they're ever going to be when they're in your home, you would hope that should be that way.
Yeah.
So help them through that journey of unpacking their emotions and learning how to be aware of what they're experiencing and more importantly how to influence, their experience, influence themselves
Hmm.
to regulate their emotions. Not to overshare about my kids on this, but my youngest, one of my kiddos has struggled with anxiety at times, and no one else knew or saw, but I always knew when she was struggling with that because I could see her on the sports court, field, whatever, um, doing like some of the tips and things that a life coach and others had taught her of like breathing through it and clenching your fists and releasing it to release that tension. There's all those things, and there's so many tools, but you need to be taught them at a young age before you just form really bad habits,
Right.
with your emotions and how you handle them.
Yeah, and then you end up later on trying to correct things that have already become a habit, and then it's
Right.
not as easy.
Yeah, it's exponentially harder for sure.
All right. So, I mean, I love the concept, and I appreciate you sharing that piece with us. Now, when do you expect to have it finished, and do you have a plan for how you plan to publish?
I'm going to self-publish through
Okay.
Amazon is the
Yeah.
plan. So I really need to just get on finding an illustrator. We've been in like full out moving, relocating,
Yeah.
launching the
Yeah.
consulting business at, the last 60 days or so, but that's sort of really calming down. And I feel like that's in a good spot. And so once I get my business website fully launched, I'm going to turn to finding an illustrator to help me with the children's book and hopefully get that up and running as soon as we can.
All right. Well, I can't wait until it's released. I know that I'll be getting a copy to read
Well, I'll
through
send
with
you
my
one. I'll make
kids.
sure to send you one. So.
Thank you so much. Well, is there anything else at all that you would like to promote? A good way for people to contact you if they have questions, anything like that?
No, I don't have my website up and running yet, but the name of
Okay.
my consulting business is Viridian Legacy Partners. So it's viridianlegacypartners.com is my website, or will be here very shortly.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and throw it in the show notes. That way, once it's active, people can find you.
Great.
And once again, thank you so much for taking your time, sharing your journey, your experiences, like tips and lessons to help people. Like it means a lot.
Well, thank you so much. This has really been great. I've just thoroughly enjoyed the discussion.
Me too. And thank you all for tuning in, allowing us to be a part of your journey. Make sure that you go like, subscribe, comment with your thoughts and questions to join the conversation, and let's